this, we have our floor protected.
All right.
Now I notice on each side of the wood stove you actually have a block installed to terminate your baseboard. And we can also bring the side of our mantle down onto it. Now this is called a plinth block.
Okay.
I also thought we would build the whole thing out of this wood right here. This is poplar.
Beautiful.
It's a great wood to work with, sands and mills up nice, and paints beautifully.
Perfect.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll build a nice thick pilaster up the side, run it high, and another piece across the face. All right, now what I did is I set a shop outside so we can build the whole thing outside. But I first want to take some measurements.
All right.
All right, I've cut 3 pieces for the mantle on my saw.
Okay.
On the side, we're going to use a piece of 5/4 by 8. Across the top, we're going to use a piece of 1 by 8.
All right.
Now, the different thickness shows right here when I put them together, there's a reveal. Now, I think that reveal is a little bit too heavy. So to lessen that, I've cut some thin strips down. I'm going to slide them underneath the piece like this and place it, and that makes the reveal softer.
Nice, subtle.
Now, to fasten the top to the sides, I used a special jig. That special jig allowed me to drill holes on an angle so I can attach the pieces together using pocket screws.
All right.
I also put a little bit of glue in that joint.
And obviously we won't see these from the front.
I hope not. All right, let me show you what I want to do here. I want our mantle to sit on top of the tile to cover this top edge and down each side. That's why I cut a rabbet up each side and across the top with my router, a straight edge, and a straight cutting bit.
All right.
All right, now when we place the mantle on top of our plinth blocks and we center it, you can see we have a nice straight edge along the top and down the sides.
Beautiful.
All right? Now we have to do a filler on each side here. We'll cut a filler strip there and attach it.
Perfect.
All right, I ripped down 2 fillers, one for each side of the back of the mantle. Notice one is really thick and one is really thin.
That's a huge difference.
Well, it's an old house and the walls are usually crooked, so it's pretty common. We want to make sure that the front of the mantle is even with the tile.
Absolutely.
Now I'm just going to glue it and nail it in place.
All right.
All right, Chris, we're picking up our cues for our mantle from this window detail.
Right.
We've already built the sides and the header. Next thing I want to make is this little detail right here.
I love it. Perfect.
Okay, let's go do it.
All right.
To make up this small detail, I ripped a strip of wood on my table saw. I mitered it on a 45-degree angle, glued it, and nailed it in place. All right, let me show you the next detail that we're going to build.
Okay.
All right, it starts with this piece right here. We've actually made a thicker piece of this one.
Okay.
We've also ripped a piece and held it on an angle so it's a flat crown molding, and then it will return into the wall.
I love it.
Okay, so we're going to start with making this piece right here. Now, remember that your mantle is thicker on one end than it is on the other, so this board's going to have to be cut on a taper. So I'm going to take a board, I'm going to stand it up, and I'm going to mark right here in the face of the mantle, and now I'll mark this end right here.
Okay.
Now I want this piece to stick 3/8 beyond the face of the mantle. So I'm going to measure 3/8 from that mark
All right.
and put a mark. I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. Now I need to rip this board on a taper. To do that, I'm going to use my circular saw and guide it with a straight edge. Now I need 2 pieces of filler strips, one to attach the mantle to the wall and one to attach my crown molding to. To attach the small piece of trim and the nailers to the mantle, I'll use pocket screws. Now, crown molding, when it goes on the wall, it sits at an angle.
Right.
So there's a flat section that goes against the wall and a flat section that goes against the ceiling. But we don't want this crown detail.
Right.
We want our crown molding to be flat. So we're going to take a piece of 1x5 and rip it down. We're going to rip the piece that's flat against the nailer that we placed and flat to go against the cap of your mantle.
Sounds great.
All right, now to match that crown molding angle on the back, you can take the crown molding, lay it on the saw upside down,
Okay.
and tilt the saw to follow that angle, and you're all set. All right, now this is how our crown molding is going to sit on top of our mantle, at that angle right there.
Nice.
But we have to make a 45-degree angle cut on this end and that end so the crown molding can return around the corner.
Okay.
Okay? So we have to make sure we hold it in the right orientation when we cut it. So to do that, now think of it. Here's the nailer and here's the top of our shelf. Now what I want to do is I want to turn it up like this, bring it over onto the saw, and I want the back of the saw to be our nailer and the bottom of the saw to be under our shelf.
So opposite.
Right. Now my saw is set at a 45-degree angle. I also want to make sure I hold the board tight against the saw
Okay.
at the back and at the bottom. I slide it down, and now I'll cut my outside miter. All right, now we've cut our return and we also cut our front piece. So what I want to do now is I want to glue this end and nail it together.
Okay.
All right, so why don't you put some glue on there for me?
Alrighty.
Okay, good. Now I want to take this piece and slide it together, just like that. Nice and tight, ooze that glue out, make sure I'm even on the top.
Okay.
And now I'm going to tack it with a gun. Let me get one on the front here. With this corner made up, I'm going to come down this end. And now I want to pull gently on our molding, keeping it tight on that end. And now I'm going to mark for my length. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
All right, let's put it in place.
Ooh, it's coming together.
It's coming together. Come to me with it. There you go.
Okay.
Right down. Good. All right, now I'm just going to nail it.
Okay.
Make sure it's down where it belongs. Right there. Okay, you got it?
I do.
All right, let's see if it fits.
Alrighty. This is so exciting.
Yeah, let's slide it to you a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, how's that?
It is amazing.
All right, let me get some screws and we'll screw it to the wall.
Awesome. What kind of screws are those?
These are actually 3-inch ceramic screws. I'm going to countersink the screws so you can putty over them when you paint it.
Perfect.
Okay, good. Now, why don't you take this end of the board and hold it up just a little bit because I want to position it in the right location before we drop it down.
Okay.
Okay, let it down.
All right.
Okay, now I'll nail it in place.
Okay, so that's what the nailing strip was for.
You got it.
All right.
Now I'm going to nail up through the molding.
All right.
All right, Chris, the mantle is done and I'm passing it off to you. All you have to do is fill some holes, sand it, and paint it.
I will do that. I am so excited. Thank you so much. It's beautiful.
It looks pretty good.